It's embarrassing for a waitress like you to come to the rehearsal dinner. Don't you dare show up at the wedding, and don't call me father if you're brazen enough to come." Hearing that, I felt nothing but ice in my heart. My father's words echoed repeatedly, cutting deeper with each repetition. "My name is Alexandra. I'm 32 years old and live in an upscale neighborhood just outside Boston. Every morning I brew a cup of freshly roasted coffee after my run, check the weather report on my phone, and walk to my sleek office building nearby. My heart swells with quiet pride as I enter. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nextstream, a subscription service company I built from scratch in a garage with college friends. My family never understood my vision. The pain of my parents' indifference still stings when I think about it. To them, I've always been the peculiar younger daughter who frustratingly dressed too simply, rarely bothered with makeup, and was constantly buried in my laptop or rushing between meetings. Eleanor, my older sister, makes my parents' eyes light up with joy. She's 3 years older than me and embodies their perfect daughter, gorgeous, elegant, and captivating. In family photos, I feel like a ghost hovering in Eleanor's radiant glow. During holiday gatherings, relatives cluster around her, gushing with admiration. "Eleanor, that dress looks absolutely stunning on you." Or, "Eleanor, your fiancé's an investment banker? How impressive." My chest tightens when my parents turn to me, if they remember I exist at all, with a dismissive "Alexandra? Oh, she's a waitress or something." They speak as if I'm merely an afterthought, a trivial footnote in our family story. I used to believe that if I worked hard enough, if I silently shouldered the burden behind the scenes, my parents would finally see my worth and beam with pride, just as they do with Eleanor. But no, the spotlight, the expectations, the endless praise. They've always belonged to her alone. My stomach knots when I remember how my parents labeled me as distant, dry, difficult to talk to. The bitter truth is they never knew I stayed at the office until midnight resolving a crisis for a project worth $2 million. They never asked how it felt to build a company valued at over $100 million with 3 college friends. When people ask about my family, I force a smile that doesn't reach my eyes and say, "We haven't spoken in a while." My voice catches slightly, not because I'm hiding anything, but because there's simply nothing left to say. The only one among my relatives who acknowledged my existence was my aunt, Martha. She was also the only one who recognized my work. Eventually, the family that had been connected by such a thin thread completely shattered at my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner. It was early April. My heart was racing with excitement. I'd just secured a massive funding round with New York investors. I planned to take 3 days off and drive 8 hours to help with Eleanor's wedding rehearsal dinner, just as I always showed up for family events. When I called midway through my journey, my father Robert answered. My stomach fluttered nervously. "I'm already on my way down. Need me to pick up anything special?" I asked cheerfully. I can still hear his voice, not angry, but strangely detached. He paused, then cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Alexandra, if possible, don't come to Eleanor's rehearsal dinner." I felt like I'd been slapped. My knuckles turned white around the steering wheel as I pulled over, thinking maybe he was concerned about my busy schedule. "It's fine, Dad. I've already arranged everything at work. I really want to be there for Eleanor." This time his voice turned icy. "Eleanor is bringing Jared. He's an investment banker. Articulate, obviously successful. Your job, well, it seems like you're some sort of waitress. You showing up would just create uncomfortable comparisons, so it's better if you stay away." My blood froze in my veins. A painful chill shot through my body as tears burned behind my eyes. I gripped the phone so tightly my fingers ached and hissed, "Are you saying I embarrass the family? That I shouldn't attend because I'm some kind of disappointment?" He didn't backpedal. Instead, he twisted the knife deeper. If you insist on coming, don't call me your father. And don't show up at the wedding either. Then silence. The call ended just like that, with no hesitation on his end. My car felt suffocatingly small. The coffee in my travel mug had gone cold. I stared through the windshield, feeling like my entire world had shattered with those few cruel words. I didn't sob. I just sat motionless, suddenly understanding with crystal clarity I was no longer welcome in the family I'd tried so desperately to please. I examined my shaking hands. They weren't trembling from rage, but from something far more profound. My breaking point had arrived. I had always believed that even if I'd never be cherished like Eleanor, I was still their daughter. The painful truth crushed me. I wasn't. I traveled back the way I came for hours, carrying wounded feelings with nowhere to go. When I got home, I decided to check my emails to switch to work mode and calm my heart. I opened my laptop and checked the company's executive briefings. One subject line immediately captured my attention: investment banker transfer to Boston office, portfolio review pending. I opened the attached document, scanning the names until I froze at one in particular. Jared Mitchell. My pulse quickened as recognition dawned. Just days ago, my mother Diane gushed about him. Eleanor's fiancé Jared works at a prestigious investment firm. I examined the file more closely. Current position: Managing Director, New York office, evaluating Nextstream's portfolio for potential investment. Approval required: Alexandra Warren, CEO and founder. A surprised laugh escaped my lips as my thoughts drifted to Jared, Eleanor's fiancé, and potentially my company's newest investment partner. The delicious irony made me laugh out loud. My family had explicitly barred me from Eleanor's wedding events because of him, while he was about to seek my approval for a multi-million-dollar portfolio investment. If life were a Broadway comedy, this would be the standing ovation moment. I returned to my office and opened the email again. The subject line practically sparkled on my screen: investment portfolio review, Jared Mitchell seeking partnership with Nextstream. I clicked his profile, absorbing every detail. Everything aligned perfectly. Age, credentials, experience, a meticulously curated resume. Precisely what would impress Eleanor? Ivy League educated, established, impeccably polished on paper. I studied his photograph, feeling a flicker of recognition. Memory suddenly surfaced. We'd briefly connected at a tech conference 6 months ago. He had firmly shaken my hand, respectfully addressing me, but neither of us made the familial connection. Or rather, I'd never cared enough about Eleanor's romantic life to recognize the man photographed beside her. Now I faced a choice: approve the investment meeting or decline it. But deep down, I knew I needn't interfere. Fate had crafted the perfect narrative. I simply needed to wait and watch what would unfold when Eleanor discovered her precious fiancé needed her embarrassing sister's approval for his career-making deal. 2 days later, Jared arrived at Nextstream headquarters. He clutched a leather portfolio. His expression was composed yet subtly nervous as he professionally entered my corner office. When I looked up from my desk, he smiled politely but showed no sign of recognizing me. "Ms. Warren, nice to meet you. I'm Jared Mitchell," he introduced himself courteously. "Thank you for your time today." I displayed a measured smile, completely calm and composed. "Welcome to Nextstream. I'll personally review your investment proposal this quarter. Please have a seat." After sitting down, he began some light small talk, perhaps to ease his tension. "Actually, it's an interesting coincidence, but my fiancé's sister also has the same name, Alexandra." I showed interest and replied, "Is that so?" "Yes," he continued with a slight laugh. "But she's completely different from you." According to my future in-laws, she's a bit odd and apparently works as a waitress or something. I've never met her, but her parents and my fiancé talk about her that way at family gatherings." He laughed lightly. "Alexandra is a wonderful name. But you, a successful female CEO, and my future sister-in-law seem to be from completely different worlds." While maintaining my smile, I calmly replied, "People are all different, even with the same name. May I see your investment proposal?" Noticing the change in conversation flow, he quickly returned to business mode. "Of course," he said while taking out documents from his portfolio. I transitioned to business talk and asked detailed questions about his company's investment strategy. As the meeting drew to a close, I slid a confidentiality agreement toward him. "You'll need to sign this. For future developments," I said in a calm voice. He took the document and found the signing section on the last page. There it clearly stated Alexandra Warren, CEO founder. He paused for a moment, stared at the signature line, then looked up at my face. "Alexandra Warren," he repeated the words, and something seemed to slowly connect in his mind. "Could it be?" I said nothing, just maintained a calm expression. His face was drained of color, and his expression changed to fear and confusion when a wave of understanding hit him. "You're Eleanor's sister?" he barely managed to say. I just nodded. Jared signed the contract with visibly trembling fingers and quietly left without being able to say anything. I leaned back in my ergonomic chair as emotions swirled within me. I wasn't triumphant. I wasn't bitter. I simply felt the universe readjusting, justice gently restoring balance. And I didn't need to say a single unkind word. The truth eloquently spoke for itself. 2 days before the wedding, I was checking my emails while drinking my morning coffee as usual. That's when an unexpected message popped up. It was from the PR team. "Alexandra, you're on the cover of the latest Forbes issue. The title is The Quiet Revolutionary Shaking Silicon Valley. The digital version is already online." My heart raced. I remember doing an interview 3 months ago, but I didn't expect to be on the cover. The article focused on Nextstream's rapid growth and my management philosophy, especially introducing me as a female CEO who built a $100 million tech company hidden behind a modest appearance. That afternoon, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. At first, it was congratulatory messages from business associates, but soon unexpected numbers started contacting me. The first message from my mother, Alexandra. I saw the latest edition of Forbes. "Is this true?" Then my dad left a voicemail message. "Call me back immediately. It's important." A series of texts from Eleanor followed. "Why didn't you say anything?" $100 million? Jared saw it, and he's completely shocked. I didn't respond. I felt a strange sense of peace in the fact that they had finally discovered my true self. In the evening, I received a video call request from Aunt Martha. When I accepted, the screen showed not just her, but my entire family gathered in the living room. Their expressions varied shock, confusion, and above all, regret. "Alexandra," my mom began in a trembling voice. "Why didn't you tell us?" I responded calmly. "I tried to tell you all many times, but no one would listen." A new face appeared on the screen. It was Jared, with the same perfect suit and refined expression as his professional profile. He stared at the screen and blurted out almost uncontrollably, "Alexandra?" Everyone fell silent. "Are you really Alexandra Warren, the founder of Nextstream whom I met the other day?" I nodded, not wavering my gaze. After a long silence, Jared began speaking to everyone in the room. "She is my potential investment partner, and her approval is necessary for our company's portfolio acquisition. A stunned silence enveloped them. Eleanor's jaw visibly dropped. My parents stood motionless. No one uttered a word. Eleanor remained silent, her face pale. "Will you come to the wedding tomorrow?" Dad suddenly asked. "I think the whole family should be together." Aunt Martha's eyes met mine, sending a subtle warning. "I didn't receive an invitation," I answered calmly. "A week ago you told me, if you insist on coming, don't call me your father." Silence fell. He tried to say something, but Mom grabbed his arm. "It was a big misunderstanding," she said. "Of course you're invited. Let's talk tomorrow." I nodded and ended the call, saying good night. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Looking through the peephole, I saw Mom standing alone. She was more well-groomed than usual and held a small package. I opened the door and invited her in. Entering the living room, she looked around my penthouse and let out a sigh of amazement. "This is amazing, Alexandra," she said. "Really wonderful." I said nothing, offering her coffee. She accepted it and sat on the sofa. "I read the Forbes article," she began. "We didn't know what you had accomplished." Robert, I, and Eleanor, she seemed to be searching for words. "We completely misunderstood you." She opened the package and took out a formal invitation to Eleanor's wedding. "Eleanor really wants you to come," she said, her voice suddenly sweet. "It would be wonderful if you could attend tomorrow's wedding as a guest of honor. Jared's entire family has seen the article. They're looking forward to meeting you." I took the invitation and traced the fold with my finger. "Why the sudden change?" I asked. She smiled and tried to take my hand. "I didn't move. You've always been special, Alexandra. We just couldn't understand." "You didn't want to understand," I quietly corrected. She flinched for a moment, then quickly regained her composure. "Will you come tomorrow? Eleanor is very worried. It's her special day." I stared at the invitation and made my decision. "I'll come." Her face brightened with relief. "Wonderful. Of course, if you need anything like a dress, I'll arrange it." "I'm fine," I said. "I'll arrange everything myself." On Eleanor's wedding day, I arrived as scheduled, but in a way no one expected. A gleaming white Rolls-Royce Phantom glided up to the venue, and my driver came out to open my door. I was dressed in a simple yet elegant designer dress, holding a small attach case engraved with the Nextstream logo. Guests noticed my arrival, and whispers spread throughout the venue. "That's the woman from the Forbes cover. She's the CEO of Nextstream. She's Eleanor's sister." As I approached the entrance, my parents rushed to greet me. Their smiles were tight, their eyes anxious. "Alexandra, we're glad you came," Mom said, pretending to kiss my cheek. "What a wonderful car." "It's a company car," I replied. "We have several for the executive team." Dad tried to escort me to the front row of the wedding, but I politely declined. During the ceremony, I sat quietly, watching the proceedings. But when it came time for photographs, Eleanor's friends began to gather around me, asking questions about the tech industry and my management style. This was supposed to be Eleanor's day to shine, but suddenly the focus shifted to me. After the reception began and the toast speeches ended, Eleanor approached my table. Her expression was stern, and her voice was kept low. "Why now, at this time?" she said bitingly. "It's my special day. But everyone's just talking about Alexandra Warren, Forbes cover, $100 million company. Were you planning this too? To steal the spotlight from me?" Many of the guests began to notice our tense dialogue, and part of the venue grew quiet. I answered in a calm voice. "Let's talk for a moment. I said. I opened the attaché case, took out some documents and placed them on the table, visible for anyone to see. These are records of the family bills I've been paying every month for the past 2 years. I showed the first folder. A total of $16,720. Next, I took out another folder. This is the recording and transcript of the phone call, where Dad excluded me from the rehearsal dinner and wedding. Finally, I took out a copy of the Forbes article and the investment proposal from Jared's company seeking my approval. I didn't come here out of anger or for revenge, I said calmly. I just want you to recognize the truth. I've been here all along. In plain sight. But no one wanted to see. Noticing what was put on the table and the serious development, the room fell completely silent. Eleanor began to cry as Mom collapsed into a chair. Why, Dad began, but couldn't finish his words. By your standards, I was never enough, I said. From today, I'll live by my own standards. That's enough, Jared suddenly said in a firm voice. He turned to me and took a deep breath. Alexandra, I want to sincerely apologize. When I heard about you as my future sister-in-law, I had a completely wrong impression. I'm ashamed that I judged you based on that. The venue fell silent, and all eyes were on us. I respect what you've built, he continued. And most importantly, your dignity. Seeing the unfair treatment you've endured all along, I've made a decision. He turned to Eleanor and said, I'm sorry, but I'm breaking off our engagement. Our fundamental values are too different. Gasps echoed throughout the venue, and Eleanor's face was drained of color. Mom leaned against her chair, and Dad was speechless. Jared turned to me again and said, Thank you for teaching me what true success is, before leaving the venue. I stood there, confused by the sudden events yet feeling an inner peace. Amidst this commotion, I hadn't said a single word in retaliation. I simply revealed the truth peacefully. Sometimes the most eloquent response is to simply exist and be yourself. Later that night, my phone chimed with my mother's first message. It was a lengthy, chaotic blend of fury and desperation. You deliberately let this happen during Eleanor's wedding day. She hasn't stopped crying. Dad is completely shocked. Don't you think that was unbelievably cruel, Alexandra? I watched her words appear on my screen, but didn't immediately respond. Instead, I prepared a cup of artisanal herbal tea and settled into my designer sofa, allowing the fragrant steam to soothe the tightness constricting my throat. I felt neither triumph nor remorse. After thoughtful consideration, I finally composed a reply, brief and direct. You claim I was cruel? If a single moment of truth was sufficient to destroy her entire wedding, perhaps that marriage was never built on anything substantial to begin with. I pressed send, completely indifferent about receiving a response. 30 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. This time from my father. I never imagined you would choose such a vindictive way to punish the family. I closed my eyes and sank deeper into my chair. Punishment? Is that genuinely how they interpreted my actions? My mind was flooded with memories of being explicitly excluded from a family celebration, having my identity as their daughter dismissed because my career wasn't prestigious enough in their academic circles. I remembered years of desperately seeking acceptance and love. Those efforts were officially over. Near midnight, an email arrived from Jared. Alexandra, I sincerely apologize for not recognizing your position sooner. I deeply respect your professional accomplishments and your dignified silence today. I've never felt more embarrassed, though certainly not because of you. After reading his words, I thoughtfully composed my reply. Jared, no apology is necessary. Everyone bears responsibility for how they perceive others. Rest assured, I never allow family dynamics to influence business decisions. But I hope you now understand sometimes maintaining silence demonstrates the greatest strength. I sent the message, powered down my device, and placed it face down on my marble coffee table. Tomorrow, I will continue my normal routine at Nextstream headquarters. Reports would need reviewing, meetings would require preparation, and life would proceed as usual. With one significant difference, beginning today, those who had consistently dismissed me finally recognized who I truly was. Without raising my voice, without making accusations, I had rendered them speechless. A week after the wedding, as my daily routine began to return, a delivery person brought a thick envelope to the door of my luxury apartment one morning. While looking at the sender, it was my parents' address. Opening the envelope, I found a handwritten letter spanning several pages. My mother's elegant handwriting conveyed emotional words. "Dear Alexandra, you can't imagine how much courage it took to write this letter. Since the wedding, our world has completely changed. Aunt Martha won't speak to us. Now she has declared she won't even host the annual family Christmas gathering and has told the truth to all our relatives. Robert's university colleagues have begun to distance themselves from him after reading that article. Many of them, it turns out, have been using your company's services. They say, 'We didn't know that famous Alexandra Warren was your daughter.' They all know that Robert has been talking about you as the failed strange daughter all this time. Now that they know about your success, they are shocked that your father had no grasp of who his daughter was and had treated you so dismissively. Our longtime friends have also left. There are no more dinner invitations, and we've been excluded from social circles. We have suddenly fallen from the social status we had built. The most painful part is Eleanor's condition. She has barely left her bed since the broken engagement. She is examining herself for the first time and is ashamed of her self-centered attitude. Why didn't I notice Alexandra's struggles? She cried last night. I thought she was jealous of me. But actually, I was privileged and blind. Since you were a child, we never tried to understand you. Instead of recognizing your unique talents and passions, we tried to force you into a mold like Eleanor's. Even when you became successful, we couldn't acknowledge it. Robert and I replay every conversation with you each night, realizing how cold and indifferent we were. Never saying thank you despite you continuing to send money. Feeling ashamed of your career because it was difficult to explain. Never being there when you needed support. We may have done irreparable damage. But if it's still possible, please give us a chance to start over. We want to rebuild trust over time and truly understand and respect who you are. From your parents. There was also a postscript from my father. His firm handwriting had lost its usual confidence. Alexandra, my pride destroyed our relationship. What I should have been most proud of, I was most ashamed of. Now, I've lost my academic position and the respect of my colleagues. But those things aren't important. What I've truly lost is my relationship with my daughter. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just consider giving us another chance to start over. I read the letter over and over, feeling something within me finally being released. I took no joy in their suffering, but there was a kind of peace. For a long time, I had craved their recognition. Now they could see me. But I no longer needed their approval. A few days later, I wrote a simple reply, "Dear Mom and Dad, thank you for your letter. It pains me to hear about the pain you're experiencing. But now I understand the importance of knowing my worth and protecting it. For years, I made myself smaller, trying to meet your expectations. But now I understand that setting boundaries to protect my worth isn't selfish, but growth. Please pass on a message from me to Eleanor. I understand her pain. The journey of self-reflection is difficult but necessary. She will find her own path. As I did. I will continue walking my own path now. Perhaps in the future, our paths may cross again. But for now we need time apart. With love, Alexandra. I mailed my reply and moved forward. Occasionally I think of my family, but there's no more pain. Just a quiet understanding. Both they and I are facing the consequences of our actions. I am complete, successful, and fulfilled without them. I keep in touch with Aunt Martha, and we occasionally have lunch. She understands that I don't want to talk about the family and instead talks about my company and future plans. Through her, I learned that Eleanor is slowly recovering and beginning to find her passion. Ironically, she has started an internship at a small tech startup. Most importantly, I found my own voice and vowed never to silence it again. My story might help someone find the courage to stand up and declare, "I am here, and I am worthy." Sometimes, the quietest voices carry the most powerful messages.